Hello, welcome to Chasing Dazur Stage 4. This is on the Makuri 40 route. This is only the second time I've done this. The first time I did Makuri 40 was in Chasing Dazur 2023. I was Cat C back then and I got dropped within the first 2 minutes and then quit that race. So I'm expecting a very hard start on this. A year's gone by and I've kind of learnt some more of the Zwift racecraft. In this race, we've got Marco Rufa from Team Kaboom, Team KCM. The two of us are so far done 4 races in this series, and we're doing very well. We had Joe Reynolds as a guest appearance on the lock loop who dragged us round lap 3 and 4. So we've got some good points for just the 2 and 3 of us. Also got Adam Dawson, who I've raced with before, and we've also got some very strong A riders, including the super strong John Telfer. But to be fair, all the A's are exceptionally strong. Thought I'd give you some commentary today over the highlights. I know this can be helpful if you're starting out with Zwift and trying to learn the racecraft. So yeah, I'll take you through my thoughts and feelings as the race progresses. You knew the first 2 to 3 minutes of this course is going to be a hard start. Sort of broken up into 30-second sections. You know, first 30 seconds coming out of the pen, then the next 30 seconds you go by the bus stop where it's particularly steep. Then the middle sort of 30 seconds to a minute, there's a bit of a flat and I think there's a downhill there. And then the last minute or last minute and a half is 3, 4, 5% gradients, and that's where you need to make sure you're in the front third of the group, but so front maybe 5 or 6 in this race, and just keep pushing until you get to the flat and through the banner at the top. I'm sharing my draft gauge in this video. I don't always have it on, but sometimes I find it helpful, and you can see I'm getting between 20 and 30 watts of draft benefit on this hill by not being on the front. That is, if you add that to the watts you're doing, that's kind of your effective watts. So if you're doing 350 and you're getting 30 benefit, you've got effective watts of 380 or just under 400 watts. So as a big group, we've made it to the top, and I'm going to skip ahead in a second. The rest is pretty flat until you get out into Neokyo. I've brought us to the dirt path just before we go through the tunnel into Neokyo. The Smith here is making a move in Cat B, and no one's following this move. The A riders are still sitting here, so I'm happy to sit here. Just keep an eye on that time. It's 15 minutes into the race, and we'll see how long Smith actually manages to stay ahead. It's now 21 minutes, so yes, Smith has stayed ahead for 6 minutes, and the gap is growing. I'm getting a little bit worried by this, so I'm hanging off the back of this group and I'm messaging Marco. I thought at this point that maybe the A's were protecting Smith and they were working together as Chase Racing team. I think I've got that wrong. Looking at the racing scores and the results after this, I don't think Smith is actually on any team. But I've messaged Marco. I've let him know that I'm actually going to bridge that gap. I cannot outpower Telfer, so I'm going to use this bump that's coming up on the map and just take him by surprise. Try and hit 900 to 1,000 watts, close that gap, and I expect at this point the A's will now join me. So there you go, 1,000 watts for 5 seconds, making that bridge. Telfer's responded, which I knew. I thought he would, especially if they are working as a team, because he doesn't want two of us getting away. I've closed the gap on Smith, and I'm just going to sit in his draft. And I don't mind really if the pack gets back on. Telfer's chasing, he's bringing the pack back together, so is Nicholson. There's a bit of backwards and forwards banter via the chat. As I say, at this point, I did think that Smith was on the same team and the A's were protecting him. And as soon as anyone made a move, the A's would close that gap to bring everybody back together. But like I say, in hindsight, I think Smith isn't affiliated with a team, so not picking up points for anybody. And here you go, yeah, everyone's back together. Welcome back, everybody. And then nothing much really happens. It's quite flat coming up to the Shisha sprint. So I've moved us forward. There were a couple of moments where the A's pushed, but nothing serious. We're now going up the Shisha climb from the other side that we normally do it. And it's not a terrible pace. This is manageable. My legs are feeling sore, but then there's some numbness which might be helping me. But yeah, that's 400. You know, looking at this bag, that's 400 watts. It didn't feel like it, so maybe I was numb. And again, pretty much as a group, we make it to the top. I'm going to make it through the banner in a second and enjoy the downhill and the brief break until we get to that final climb into the finish. It does flatten out from here a little bit. There's a false flat, but you can see my draft gauge will start to come back. Again, remember that's effective watts, so I'm getting about 100 effective watts there on top of what I'm doing. So you can, if you do some maths on the fly, you can roughly work out what you need to put out. A lot of this becomes intuitive. I'm only bringing the draft gauge up here to, I think, show how it works a little bit, but also in races like this, it is helpful to have it there just to remind yourself what you're getting. And I also like the course profile, gives you that incentive to get up that last bit of the hills. Six and a half kilometers left of the race. This is quite a drawn-out climb. The gradients aren't that large. It's draftable. Again, you can see I'm getting 50-60 watts of draft benefit. And a lot of that as well, talking about the draft, that is related to your speed. So the Zwift is a game of momentum. The draft gauge will increase the faster you're going. So if you're doing 30 kilometers per hour or up to 40 or 50, you're getting a lot of draft benefit. Once you drop below 30 kilometers an hour, draft starts to disappear. So you can use your speed as a gauge generally. But you can see it's drawn out. This is quite a drawn out climb, and the A's are making a break for it. Couple of B's try and follow. I try a little bit, but I can see it's not going to work. I can also see that no other B's are going to make it. There is Nicholson sort of out on his own, but I don't think he's going to catch on to them, not with the A's just doing sort of 7 watts, and I saw some orange numbers. So I'm going to sit in this group, use the draft. We'll bring Nicholson back in a minute, and then as a group of Bs, it's now going to come down to the final sprint for positions, really. I'd also point out that at this point in the race, my legs were so numb, and I was, I was just throwing the cranks around with my feet. Really, that's all I could do. I didn't have much feeling there, and this is it's a long drawn out climb. And even when we get to the top, it's kind of a false flat all the way to the finish. There are bits of break, but again, it's about your speed in the draft, so you can make do. As long as you're sitting in this group like I am, sort of third, fourth, fifth wheel. So we'll skip to the end. I do have a plan for the finish. There's a bridge, which is about 300 metres to go. You can carry max speed. It flattens out a little bit, and as mentioned, Zwift is a game of momentum. However, I have a painful cramp in my right calf, and I'm trying to stretch that calf out, knowing I've got to do a 15-second sprint at the end. However, the front's already starting to make a move and stretching this out. So I'm trying to hold on with 500 watts. I'm not too concerned. But I am starting to lose contact a little bit. The plan, as mentioned, is the bridge comes up now. It flattens out. So this is where you want to put your max power down, or your max torque. I'll accelerate to 49 kilometers per hour. There's a bit of a bump here. I'm carrying more speed than everybody else now. Down into this -3, then back up, and unfortunately I couldn't quite get the podium spot into 1, 2, 3. But yeah, that was a fun race, an interesting course, some difficult climbs on there, very draftable. But hopefully you got some tips. Thank you for watching.